Good morning, everybody. Almost good afternoon. This is Amuse News. I'm your host, RJ. I'm back. It's been a couple days, but it's summer, and if you haven't already, hopefully you will soon see our HRN rebrand, our new website, our new look and feel on Instagram. We've been doing a lot, and anyway, I'm here. I'm back, and I'm really excited about today's guest, Yasmin Fahr, who is a cookbook writer, of course, a contributor to NYT Cooking. And we're going to talk about her new cookbook, Cook Simply, Live Fully. So I'm going to bring her on in a couple minutes, and I'm really excited to talk to her. I just want to touch on a couple things. As you all know, I try to bring some new either podcasts or news or things like that. I'm going to keep it really short today because I want to talk to Yasmin, but I am going to do a bigger roundup a little later this week. So the first thing I want to say is that one of our shows, Inside Julia's Kitchen, has a new episode, and they're revisiting this conversation with Alice Waters, who's the 2024 Julia Child Award recipient. Alice Waters, of course, is Chez Panisse in Berkeley, chef, author, food activist, and Todd Shulkin of the Julia Child Foundation and Alice talk about the Edible Schoolyard Project, which she started in 1995, and her career and her relationship with Julia Child. It's a really fun listen, and I hope you all check that out. Meat and Three, our flagship podcast produced by our amazing interns, which I've talked about many times. The internship cohort is coming to a close within the next couple of weeks, but we have a few more episodes, and I just wanted to flag the Our Cheese, Ourselves episode. Cheese holds a special place in our hearts at HRN and maybe in all of our hearts across the world. But this episode talks about home cheese making, cheese fortune telling, the cheese traditions of Wisconsin and Mexico. It goes all around the world to talk about cheese. So check that out. Link is in the show notes, as always. And the last thing I want to just flag was from the New York Times, the revisiting nutrition takeaways from 2024 so far. There's a lot in there about, of course, like the Mediterranean diet, the kind of back and forth we've had about whether wine is actually good for you, how healthy are avocados, is coffee that bad for you? All things that are really relevant to me, and how much water you should really drink, which I'm fascinated by these ongoing debates about whether these things are necessary to talk about or not. So check that out, and again, the link is in the show notes. So I'm gonna not waste any more time and bring Yasmin in. If you're listening, you'll hear a quick break, but if you're watching, it'll be shorter. All right, I'm here with Yasmin Fahr. Yasmin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
It's really nice to talk to you, and I know you have a lot of kind of shared roots with a lot of the HRN team and network through the NYU Food Studies program, and I'm sure that you've known some of the shows in the past, and it's really good to talk to you. And I should have done this when I introduced you.
Ta-da!
Cook Simply, Live Fully. Really cool. Yeah, you have one too. I wanted to start by asking you about you talk about this in the intro to the book, but just tell us about like the title, Cook Simply, Live Fully, and the inspiration for it.
Yeah, so I actually ended up writing a lot of the book in Menorca, which I just moved to a few months ago. Officially, my visa just came through, and a lot of it is just about well, I think I was saying to you earlier is that I'm someone who overthinks a lot, gets very anxious and kind of is in my head. And so just being here, it taught me a lot to kind of relax, to enjoy my life, to slow down. And so that's really the intention behind the book, is to give you these simple recipes so you can live a full life, like whatever that means to you. And I think for me, it's creating really delicious things that don't take forever, but make me feel good about them, and really listening to like my mood and energy level, and like, how much time do I really want to spend in the kitchen, and how much energy do I actually have to make dinner versus like what I think I should be doing, so it's a bit more, yeah. Which is how I actually, yeah.
One of my like coaches at some point said, like, should is a really, really dangerous word, right?
Yeah. And like I get stuck in that all the time. I'm like, I should do this. And it's like, no, I shouldn't. Like, what do I actually want to do? And that's probably better for me and for everyone else too. It's like these arbitrary rules in our head.
Yeah. Well, I like how in the intro you talk about like you had a crisis, I guess is how I would describe it, and you kind of like were paying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's putting it nicely.
You came away from it though, like what you were just saying, like realizing paying more attention to
Yeah.
what you want to do, and as opposed to what you should or need to do. But that's how you kind of organize the book too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like you were saying, is I think I just finished another book and it was post pandemic and it was in New York and I'd been alone in my apartment, like many people. And I don't think anyone had a good experience no matter where you were. But I think I just kind of hit this point of like working so much, being exhausted. And I was like, I just can't do this. And then I came to Menorca and I was like, oh, my life could be different. Like I could actually enjoy my day to day. And not that it isn't hard and there aren't problems here. I was like, but I can also make a choice of how I live my life, and I'm lucky to be able to do that. So yeah, the book is based on Menorca and also the idea of enjoying your life and like listening to yourself. And that is how it's organized by mood and energy level.
How different is it, just in terms of the way you approached it from your previous cookbooks?
So the first one is all like keeping simple, all one pot meals. So I had a recipe column for serious eats. So it's good for like beginner cooks and people who just are tired of thinking of new ideas and want some simple things in a pan or a skillet and in the oven. And the second book, Boards and Spreads, is more when you're having people over. So just like simple dinner recipes, but all in a very casual serving style. And this one is more of a dinner book, but I think it's my biggest. It is my biggest, and it's my most personal because I had a lot of creative freedom with it, and I think it's the most realistic in a way because, like, I think it really captures the different or my moods, I guess, of like when I'm super tired, I don't want to cook or really prep anything. So, like, what can I throw together? To when I'm really excited and want to have people over, but nothing's too complicated and nothing takes more than like an hour and a half. So it is, I know people say it's like meant for real life, but it really is meant for real life. It's like real life is like ups and downs. It's not just smooth. It's a bit of a roller coaster. So I was trying to capture that, the book.
I feel like I'm not a cookbook expert, but I do think like you see the trend toward that more casual approach, right?
I
It's
think
like
so.
how can we
Yeah.
have like fresh ingredients and interesting meals without spending all day,
Yeah.
making something.
No, I
Um,
agree. And like I love to cook and I still cook that way because sometimes you just don't have that much time or energy and you want to do other things. So, like you said, how can we do that but still feel good about what we're feeding ourselves and our family?
I thought it was pretty innovative how you organized it between lap dinners, coffee table dinners, and dinner table,
I
because
love
like
that. Yeah, that's how I
that's
eat.
realistic. Yeah,
Exactly. Like
yeah.
I like so much of those recipes and lap dinners. I'm on the couch with like a pillow on my lap in a bowl, like eating, or like even if I have friends over, we're sitting around the coffee table and just eating in a more casual style. So again, it's meant to be, real life, but really real life. And it's not always like beautiful set tables, it's a lot of lap dinners.
I like that you when the way you organized it into those, you also have this like how you want to feel after and energy level. Like how did you come to those parameters, or how did you decide on like, okay, this is kind of like this is for this section, with something that is sort of subjective.
I mean, I think it is subjective. So I do try to say that as well. And I think you can mix and match. But I think so basically, when I was writing the chunk of this book, it was like 7 weeks by myself in Menorca. I didn't know anyone. So I spent a lot of time with myself working on recipes. And like those three sections is like kind of how I figured out how I want to cook and like how I want to feel. Like if it's really hot out, something's going to be super light and refreshing. But if it's cold, I want something more comforting. And I think when I'm thinking about what to cook or what to eat, I think about how do I want to feel after? Like, do I want to feel like nourished and warm, or do I want to feel like something really light? So, and I think a lot of them end up being time and energy levels. So it's like 15, 20 minutes at the beginning, a little like 30 to 45 in the middle, and then 45 to an hour and a half in the last section. So,
And
yeah.
And I just like how do you how do you decide what goes in here? Like how many things do you try that end up not in the book? Like
Oh,
is it a pretty serious ratio that end up not in the book?
yes, I think yes. And I think I basically start out with this like huge bubble. And honestly, I don't know how it all comes together at the end. I'm like, does this make any sense? Is anyone gonna like this? Because it feels like this huge thing that you kind of whittle down over time. And then a lot of it is like, even with my editor, like there's these Mediterranean nachos in the book. And I was like,
Mhm.
no one's gonna make these. Like, I should cut this. And she was like, no, people love nachos. And actually people really love that recipe. So I think it's a lot of conversation with other people too who give you like a fresh perspective on it. Because I think I'm so in my head and so living in it. But I think these are things that I end up cooking for myself, and that's how they go in the book. So I think like, will I want to make this again? And if it's a yes, it stays. If it's a no, it goes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool. Do you have any favorites from each of those sections?
Ooh, yes. Oh God, there's so many though.
There's so
Okay,
many. There's so
I
many.
know. There's a chicken with chili crisp in the. Oh no, actually, okay. Well, lap dinners, the chicken with chili crisp, I love because it's super easy. But there's also a 5 minute hibachi shrimp. That's like a sheet pan meal, and it's just so easy. But it's one of those things that tastes greater than the sum of its parts because it's like quick but flavorful. Um, and there in the middle section, there's a ton of like sheet pan chicken recipes. So I think those are some of my favorite too, because it's like so easy. Like there's one for now with stone fruits and ginger. That would be really great because it's like summery and light, but a little zippy and fresh. And then the last section, oh, there's these like meatballs with garlic, ginger, and scallions and a coconut rice. So that's a bit more warming, like more for the winter, I would say. But although it could be light, but I think again, all
Yeah.
it's subjective. Is like what you like, but
Yeah.
keep going on and on. Yeah, like and then this
No,
and
no, that's great. We made the cheesy potatoes and spiced
oh,
tomato sauce.
oh, you like that? Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah, it was great. I think we made like a couple small tweaks, but I like the kind of queso fresco approach.
yeah,
It
exactly.
like keeps it a little lighter.
Exactly, and it's like it was inspired. I did that while I was actually here in Menorca because I was like, "Ooh, patatas bravas," and I was like, "Tomatoes," and so it evolved into that. But yeah, I think you should make your own tweaks always to all my recipes, I think, and to anyone's recipes, really.
Yeah, yeah, that's what's hard about it because to me, like you go and there's very specific ingredients, but if you're smart about it, you can substitute.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's the fun of cooking is, like, knowing what you like because your palate might be a little bit different than mine and your taste or your friend's taste or your partner, so it's always nice to mix and match and make it your own. It's more fun that way too. But or follow them if you want to. If you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to. Yeah.
Well, this is a fun book. I wanted to ask you, and of course we'll put a link to where you can find the book. And appreciate you talking about it. I just wanted to ask, like, how do you think about novelty in terms of recipes to present, whether it's in this book or otherwise? Because there are a finite number of foods, but maybe there's an infinite number of combinations. I'm just curious, like, is that a part of your thought process?
Yeah. No, and I think that's a really good question. I think how I describe to someone is, I like you said, like every recipe has probably been done before, or like a sheet pan chicken recipe. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, but I do think I can always put my spin on it, like what makes it a recipe that I would want to make, and it's kind of my personality, my flavor profiles and palette. And I think then someone will be like, okay, I know Yasmin, I know what I'm probably going to get from her style, her food, and I think in anything like in art or any kind of creative field, we're all sort of doing that, right? It's like the same information, but then how do we filter it through our lens of seeing the world and then put it back out there? So I think it's a bit of that, but I think to say that we're not inspired by everyone around us and learn from everyone and what we see and what we see on Instagram, even when I'm scrolling, like I'll see an idea and be like, oh, I should do that, but with this, with this, with this. So
Hmm.
I think it's, you get inspiration from everywhere, which is great.
Yeah, it is great. What are some, like, I guess, trends in food? Like, just thinking about the NYT cooking stuff you've done,
Mm,
is there anything that you would point to? I feel like that's something we talk about a lot in this.
yeah.
Like, what are the food trends? What are you seeing in terms of, I don't know, whether it's ingredients or approaches? Is there anything that you've seen over the past like year that's different from before?
I don't know even if I would say this is different. I think it's probably ongoing, but I think there's even more and more demand for what we were talking about is like quick and easy recipes, things that you can throw together, but don't take a lot of time, but also make you feel good, like aren't super high in salt. Maybe they're vegetable forward or there is some protein, but I think really being able to get these approachable, delicious, surprising meals on the table without a lot of effort, it really seems what readers are craving. And I think there's time for more, project meals, but I think the reality is like our world is going faster and there's more strain on our time. So how do we meet that, but also take care of ourselves in this way? So I think it's trying to find that balance in many ways, which is hard.
It's really hard, and I think, like, some of the, like, remembering old Cooks Illustrated that I used to have and making
Yeah.
bolognese for the first time, it took like 6 hours or something.
Yes.
Like, I feel like it just doesn't, like,
No.
it's rare. But do you
It
do you
is.
still do you still do that? Do you still like try to master complicated things or spend all day cooking, or are you moving more in that direction yourself?
I'm moving more in that direction myself, which is sort of funny because I agree. I was just thinking like first time I made tomato sauce, I remember like crushing it in my hands and being like, this is incredible. But I was like, when was the last time I actually did that? I'm like, now I'm too lazy to take the skins off. Like, I'm just like, forget it. It's fine, So
Right.
I've really
Right.
come a long way. I'm like, it doesn't matter, So yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. How's your cooking changed since you've been in Spain? Like ingredient wise, approach wise, like
No,
what
well,
comes to mind?
I've always tried to cook seasonally, but actually here I really only cook seasonally because the market is so wonderful in the produce. So, I go to the farmers market Wednesday and Saturdays. That's where I buy all my fresh ingredients. And then I kind of supplement it with some other things like breads or pastas, but all from here. And it's been really nice actually to like fully cook from the seasons. Whereas I feel like in New York, or other cities, it's been so easy to be like, oh, I'll just get asparagus in, the fall. And it's like, well, it's not really in season. It doesn't taste great, but it's there and I want to make this dish. And here it's like, nope, it's not there. You really have to cook it. And it's been really nice. But I use a lot more like pimenton, like smoked paprika,
Mm,
and not that much spice because the cuisine here isn't actually full of like heat. It's like seasoned, but there's not a lot of spice in that way. So I think I've
mm.
actually decreased that, which is rare for me. So
Yeah, that's interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting. But like more flavorful spice and maybe less heat.
Definitely, exactly. Like definitely spices and seasoned food, but it's not like a red pepper flakes. I was like, put it on everything. And
Yeah.
now I don't really do that. Like I brought a huge jar with me because I couldn't find it here. And I was like drying my own peppers to make it. I was like, I don't know if I'm even going to use these. So
Right.
things like
That's
that.
cool. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that. So I have a question about photography
sure.
because some of these, like especially in the cookbook, I mean, they're
So beautiful. He did
beautiful,
such a good job. Yeah, he's
beautiful
amazing.
photos.
Mhm.
How different is the food that you like, I mean, you can't take
No,
pictures of food with like yourself, right? Or I can at least.
no,
What's like the process and how do you get such beautiful photography out of these?
yeah, no, so there's a team. So there's a food stylist and then a food stylist assistant and then the photographer and then the photographer's assistant usually. And I did more of the props in this one. So every photo shoot's different depending on budget, but
Mhm.
work together as a team. And so there really is the food stylist and the assistant who are creating the food. And you kind of give like a brief of like, I want it to be approachable. I want it to look how it is. Like I want people to be able to look at the photo and then use that as a guide for when they're cooking. And so really make it real, but
Yeah.
obviously it is beautiful. And then I think Matt, the photographer, is really wonderful with lighting. And I think he really captured the sort of like Mediterranean sun-filled like feel and like joy of the book. So I think that comes across in the lighting. But I mean, I never knew until I did this, like how much work goes into the photo shoot and how much thought and time and people. And so it is really collaborative. And it's really cool as the author, like you write this thing and then all of a sudden it comes to life with these other people. And you're just like, oh wow, like it's not just me like in my pajamas, like clacking away on my computer, and like
Right,
covered
right.
in food and like smelling like food. It's like, oh, this is nice. Like
And
so
and also just the way that you organize it between those 3 sections, you can tell by like you said,
yeah,
the props or the lighting, like, is this supposed to be sitting with friends outside? Is this supposed to be you sitting on your couch by yourself? But and the lighting and the photography really reflect that. I think it's
I'm
really, like,
so
true to
glad.
that idea.
Thank you. No, that was our intention. So I'm really glad that comes across because we wanted to feel like moving from super casual to not fancy, but a bit more energy level of like how you're sitting and what you're doing and how you're eating and the props involved. So it was intentional. So I'm glad it comes across.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great book. And I have to ask, last
Yeah.
question is,
No, go.
is there any meal or dish that you've been eating a lot recently or that you're obsessed with at the moment?
From the book or just in general?
And just in general.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of sardines since I've been here, and, like, I've
Mm,
always liked them, but now like, today for lunch, I did just toast with a little bit of butter, tomatoes from the market, sardines, olive oil, and, like, herbs from the market, and, like, they have this wonderful olive oil and salt from here that I just drizzle on top, and I've been eating
wow.
that almost every day or some variation of it. I think it's really hot. It's, like, in the 80s every day and, like, thick heat, so I think New York has been having a bit of
Yeah,
a heat
yeah.
wave.
It's
So, like, it's
it's
hard to eat too much or cook. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's
yeah,
a
so
that's a great call.
yeah,
That's a
but
great call.
a lot of fish, a lot of tinned fish, which I think is the thing, but here I put
Yeah,
in pizzas and stuff, so
and I was at the fancy food show in New York a couple weeks
oh,
ago,
yeah,
and tinned fish is definitely, I don't think it's new, but
no,
I think
it's
it's
not.
here to stay though,
Exactly. No, and it's very practical, like, it's something you just have, and when you're like, "How can I whip up a good meal that has flavor and, good stuff for me?" It's a good answer, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining and for doing this book. And as everyone hopefully knows by now, it's called Cook Simply, Live Fully. But we'll put a link to it in the show notes. And Yasmin, thanks for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me and for all the great questions. I appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, of course. And hopefully I'll see you soon, maybe in Spain or New York.
Yes, I would love that. Yeah, come on over. I'll make it. It'll be great.